Okay, wow, that was a bit of a rush at the end there. Right, we're live. So let me start by saying what we're going to be talking about. I am going to be covering, let me get a little bit settled here. Bit of a rush, bit of a sudden change. I'm in my eldest boy's room. He's at school, so he won't mind. So I'm going to be talking about how to make selling one-to-many online infinitely easier. I've got a little diagram that I'm going to use to talk around. This is going to be an opportunity for me to kind of think a lot of this through as well, because it's something that I want to both share with you and also think out loud for myself. I think I've mentioned a number of times before, I'm an overthinker. Like that's my big flaw. I overthink pretty much everything related to business. And at times that has really got in the way. So my way to deal with that is I actually allow myself pretty much a week every month where I just have the week to think. And so in that time, in that week, I will research ideas, go over material that I've looked at before, but often I see it in a new light, or I'm thinking about it in a new way, or wanting to apply it in a new way. And so I've been looking at a combination of things, literally all the way back to grassroots, in the sense of, I think over the last few weeks, I've been digging deeper. I think last week I talked about how there is so much opportunity, like just ridiculous amount of opportunity at the moment. Which opportunities to take advantage of, which ones to kind of grab, which sweeties to grab, which ones to leave behind. And so based on that, one of the things that really came out of it, came out over the last sort of week or so, is a real desire to help people on another level. And certainly the people that are struggling consistently, and that's relative as well, of course. So for some people, struggling means getting started. Some people, struggling means getting to 6 figures a month, and beyond. So it's all relative, but it's helping people really develop an understanding of what makes selling easier. And there is both a want and a need within that arena. There's a number of different niches that I can approach in that arena. And I want to really kind of highlight what really makes the difference. So that's where I'm at. If you are listening to this on the replay, then obviously give me a comment below. Let me know where you're listening from. I'm just trying to make sure I got this right. There we go. I want to make sure it's sort of near my face. Hold on a sec. Yeah, just need to grab my coffee with things being a little bit all over the place here. Right. I probably need at some point to get a different camera. I'm really relying on the camera on my laptop for now. I've got an external camera, but the challenge I found with it is, of course, that it doesn't sync with the audio. So you get the situation where, a bit like one of those old kind of Hong Kong kung fu movies where the action and the mouths moving and the sound are not together. They're all out of sync. So avoiding that, this avoids that. But I think I should at some point get a decent camera and find out how to get the things to synchronize and work properly together. I'm sure there's a way of doing it. So let me kind of start by giving you a little diagram. Then I'll explain where I'm coming from with this. Excuse me. And then I'll kind of go into some ideas about how you use this. So if you're a coach, if you are in affiliate marketing, if you are in any way wanting to be successful online, whether that's through products, solely through coaching, combination of the two, through affiliate, or a combination of all three, then selling obviously is key. You cannot translate your potential into profit unless you actually make some sales. And that's the area most people fall down. And what I see is you either have people that go down the model of doing all one-to-one selling. Nothing wrong with one-to-one selling. Not a lot of leverage in it. So the only way to get leverage, obviously, is as you grow, then you either put your rates up so that you deal with the same number of clients, but you make more money because you keep putting your prices up. But again, there's going to be a point at which it's like who you're dealing with, really, what niche do you ultimately want to be in. Or you can go down the route that I've seen a couple of people go down, which is where you hire people to do the one-to-one closing for you. So you have a team of salespeople. So you're just consistently booking calls in for them, booking people in for them, using all your other marketing material to get those people on those calls. So all of those can work, but I'm a big fan of one-to-many. So I'm a big fan of anything that gives me leverage. So anything that allows me to reach more people at the same time, maximize what the internet and the technology provides to us, which is that ability to do all of that without even being there. See, to me, the whole idea of one-to-one selling and having to book calls and actually physically get on a call, you could spend all 40 hours a week doing that. And then to do that with more people and build a team of people around that, then you've got to deal with that team. And I've managed sales teams in the past. When I built my NLP business, I built an NLP team. I built a sales team to help me with that because we didn't have the internet like we have today. So I've managed all of that. And I would say that I still come back to my personal favorite is always one-to-many. And it's like, let's make use of the leverage that's one, built into that. And secondly, make use of the leverage that is built into the internet and combine the two. And then you've got massive leverage. So let me I've got a little slide. I'm going to bring it up because I couldn't work out how to connect some way of drawing. Like it'd be nice to get, like if I was sat with you, I'd literally, if I was doing this to an audience, I'd get a flip chart and I'd draw on the flip chart. If I was sat with you personally, I'd probably get my journal out and just draw on the journal. So I haven't found a way to do that through this yet. I'm sure there's a way. I'm sure I can find a way to connect my tablet to my laptop and draw with one of those, pen things. I've got a pen thing for my tablet. I'm sure I could find a way to connect it somehow, but I haven't done that yet. However, so I've created a slide, which is probably why slides were invented in the first place. So let me bring this up and then I will talk around it. Play slideshow in window. That's the one. And make the window smaller. There we go. Then on here, I want to click that one, I think. I want to share a screen, share a window. That one. That's the one. That's the one. Yes, there we go. All right. Okay, that looks cool. Right, now, I've literally just knocked this up a few minutes ago. There is a purpose to this. The line down the middle, the black line with a little arrow underneath it saying, ask for the money. That's the part in selling that I would say 99% of people really dislike. And they dislike it because they don't know how to do it in a way. Because I know what they're doing in their head. In their head, they're thinking response. Like they're thinking, when I ask for the money, what is the response going to be from the person I'm talking to? And it's amazing how myths can be established and how long they last. And even today, most people, if I mention the word selling, which is why I tend to avoid using it, I use the word influence. But if I mention the word selling, they still have visions of kind of a sleazy, grubby 1960s car salesman, man, typically a man, trying to sell them a car they don't really want. That's still the impression that most people have of selling, which is extraordinary because, of course, that literally went out with the 1950s because it just didn't work. Nobody liked it. Not even the salespeople liked it. They didn't like doing it. So that went out, but it's persisted as a myth and as a stereotype ever since, which is incredible. So I want to break that. So most people, when they think asking money, they think they're going to get rejected in some way. They think people are going to be upset with them. They think they're going to get, names called at them, all this kind of stuff. And obviously, if you do that online and then people are like, oh, it was just a pitch, it was just this. And don't get me wrong, of course, we still see that. People that turn up for webinars, the whole thing with webinars now is, they are done so much, particularly in the more common niches. And of course, there are a lot of people who do them badly. And there's a lot of people who all they do is pitch. And therefore, people get to the end of the webinar and it's like, there was no value in this. What was the point of it? It was just a hard pitch all the way through. And they hate it. And rightly so. So people look at it in terms of, okay, when I ask for the money, I don't want that kind of response. I don't want to be perceived as a hard-nosed salesperson. I don't want to be a pitch kind of person that's not interested in caring about my customers. I want to be someone that genuinely cares. And I want to be perceived that way as well. And so the idea that somehow they've got to violate their values in order to be successful is obviously abhorrent to people. And I totally agree. Here's the missing bit, though. It's not about asking for the money. Asking for the money should be very simple. I mean, putting together if you understand your offer and you know what it is you want to offer, let's say you've got a coaching program packaged and you want to put that across, then the offer itself, if you were doing it through a presentation and you were doing that live in a webinar, then the actual slides for that offer are pretty formulaic. They are incredibly formulaic. And that part, it doesn't have to be clever at all. It just literally follows a formula, follow the formula. It's very straightforward. However, if you want to get to the place where when you do that, the people listening, your prospects, your marketplace, the people you want to help actually not only want to hear it, but actually, one, are asking to hear it, and two, respect you for hearing it, then you got to recognize the asking for the money bit is tiny bit. It's like 2 minutes, it's a minute. Even on a one-to-one conversation, it's still the actual, do you want to go ahead, get your, pay for this? That part of it takes seconds. So the more important part is everything which happens before you ask. And this is where the internet both can be a great tool, but is used badly. So everything which happens before you ask means everything which happens before someone even gets to your presentation. So whether you're doing a webinar, whether you're doing a one-day virtual event, everything that happens before they get there matters. And this is where the psychology side comes in. So this week, I've been going over a huge amount of material, predominantly material I've sort of collected over the years from notes I've made over the last couple of decades, where I've dug into the psychology of why people buy. And sort of at the time, I had a real, obviously, interest in how do I apply this to my presentations. And I will tell you as well, one of the things which was partly my personality, but partly came out of my research, whenever I've done a presentation, which was a pitch presentation, my number one focus is not how many different tactics can I use to close the deal. My number one focus was always how much rapport can I build? How much trust can I build? That's always been my primary driver. That's always been my primary focus. And as a strategic objective, that will do more for you than any tactic out there. I mean, I've seen pretty much all the different ways which come about at the line where you're asking for the money. So things like, for example, sticking an envelope under one of the chairs in the audience and then getting somebody to say, well, I've hidden an envelope in here. Who's got the lucky envelope? And, everybody scrambles around looking under the chair and they pull it out. They go, I've got it. I've got the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. And it's like, come up on, read it out, right? And inside is a super special offer, which of course the rest of the audience are all going to get anyway. So I've seen all those kind of things. They can work. They can fall completely flat on their face as well. And the other side of it, of course, that you don't see in the audience is the number of refund requests after the event. Like the number of people I've spoken to after an event, and I've never done that. I've never done the grab the envelope thing. I just don't. Actually, I have done it a couple of times just to test it, but I don't like it. It's not really me. But my point in sharing it with you is those are tactic based. It's like, oh, I want to ask for the money. How can I create more scarcity? How can I do some of those things to really get people to go, yes, I'm going to do this? And it's really more about, it's another way of saying, how can I get somebody in a headlock and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until they tap out? It's like, and give me their money. And I don't like that approach. And it's not necessary. As I say, it's not only necessary, it's detrimental because it causes more refund requests. People regret after the event. They make a decision in the moment. They buy something, then a day later, like, what did I do? What was that all about? And they feel that they'd been pressured, rightly so. They had, and therefore they end up asking for the money back. So they lose because you could have had a fantastic program they could have benefited from. You lose because your business doesn't grow because you haven't got customers. And you lose more than that because what are they going to say to their friends? What are they going to say to the people they know? Oh, I went to this, but it was real high pressured selling. And so even if you got something great, which presumably you have, then you've still got a situation where the word of mouth around you is not great. Nobody wants to be known as the high pressure salesperson. It's like, it doesn't do you any favors at all. It's probably, don't get me wrong, if there's 7 billion people on the planet, there probably is still a small niche of people that like that and want to learn from it, but it doesn't have any legs. It doesn't have any long lasting benefit to you or your business. And as I say, it's not most people, personality-wise, don't want to do that, aren't like that. So everything which happens before you ask. So what does that mean? That means that, the reason I like doing a web class and a presentation is I can share information. I can actually educate people. I can give them value up front. And that's great and necessary, in my opinion. I think everything you put out should in some way add value. So, and if you look at Frank Kern, I've got a lot of Frank Kern's materials from over the years, where I've been part of his inner circle and things like this. And I've learned a lot from Frank, and he's allowed me to not only gain new material that I hadn't seen before. But more importantly, and which is why I like kind of getting different perspectives on things, he's allowed me to see what I already knew in a new way. Like, he'll talk about telling stories, and I know a lot about telling stories. Stories is an area I've spent a lot of time researching, digging into, and actually using. But he gave me a new perspective on it. And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about using them that way, or I hadn't realized I was doing that. Like he mentioned, like this week, I was going through some material and he was talking about connecting with your audience and sort of using stories to do that. And he gave a couple of examples. And I was like, I do that. I do that without even realizing I'm doing that. But actually, if I go back far enough, I do realize I did it, because that's where I started with this concept of a universal experience, for example, where you tell a story and you share an experience that your audience can relate to, like they would have either have had it themselves, or it's so common to human beings they can imagine having it, or will imagine having it at some point in the future. So those are universal experiences, like, for example, being born at Christmas. If you're in the West, and mostly you can relate to Christmas, you can relate to Christmas trees, all those. So those kind of experiences are universal. So that's what I mean by you. So, it was kind of giving me an insight into that. So everything which happens before you ask is all about how you are ultimately positioning yourself, what you are doing to really build trust, to really build credibility, to really get people wanting to, well, basically, it's how you're creating fans. So how are you creating fans? On what level are you creating fans? And so everything, if you create fans, and I think I've said this before, if you have absolute trust in someone, you respect them, you know that what they talk about has a positive impact on the results you want to achieve, and they suddenly say, and like, you got absolute faith in them, absolute trust in them, and they say, oh, I brought out this new program, or they just say, look, I just read this book, it's fantastic, I think you should read it. What are you going most likely to do? You're most likely to just not even think. You're just going to, I'm buying it. If such and such says it, I've got absolute trust in that person. They've never let me down in the past. If they say it's worth reading, it's worth reading. I'm going straight to Amazon this second and I'm buying it. That's a fan. That's a raving fan. You want more of those people. And that comes about not at the sales point where you ask for the money. That comes about with everything you do before you ask for the money. And this is really it's not all of marketing, but it certainly falls under the umbrella of marketing, and it really falls into the aspect of branding. So that idea of creating an identity for yourself in the marketplace. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm an overthinker. So therefore, to help me with that, because of course that would get in the way of me progressing and doing the things I need to do to actually have the success I want, then I allow myself 1 week a month where I overthink. So I collect ideas, I go back through stuff, and I bring it all together again. And so this week, based on last week where I was like, there's so many opportunities, which ones do I want? Went through everything, and I've really drilled down into it. And I had some big ahas, and this was one of them. And it was all about, how do I help people translate their potential into profit? Well, I can do that by helping them sell one-to-many. But actually, to understand that selling one-to-many isn't the point at which you ask for the money. It's everything you do before you ask for the money that's important. So putting together a web class presentation is part of that. Everything that happens before the presentation is part of that. And also tied in with this, I've been helping somebody recently, and he already was running web classes. So what he wanted was someone to help with some advertising, run some adverts, get more people booked on his web class. And I kind of said at the beginning, I'm not a fan of just running cold ads or ads to a cold audience, putting them straight onto a web class, because they don't know you. It's like I come back to, can you build trust? Can you build credibility? Can you build all of that up front? And are you willing to do that? What gets in the way of that is impatience. But actually, once people are motivated by pain and pleasure, if we do that. So, I said to the client, okay, well, let's do that. Let's go with it. And we wrote some ads. The ads worked in the sense of click-through rate, people landing on the landing page, subscriber rate's okay, registration rate, I say, is okay, it's not brilliant. But then show up rate to the webinar, not brilliant at all. And it's like, why? Well, the why is because you haven't built enough credibility, you haven't built enough trust, you haven't built enough fans who want to hear what you've got to say, where it's a must and not a nice to do. That's what the problem is. So impatience ends up costing you money. Whereas if you do it right, then you will make more money. Your advertising will be cheaper. you'll build a solid fan base that will want to listen to you for the next couple of decades, not just for the next 5 minutes. So everything which happens before you ask. So I'm thinking this through as I'm talking. There's also stuff in my head that I want to share with you. It may be that we continue this conversation in another live because I probably won't get through everything in one. But it starts with understanding, and this bit you've heard before, who is your ideal audience? Who is your ideal client? And let me kind of break this down a little bit further than I think I've ever broken it down before. So that hopefully you'll understand it at a deeper level. So I've seen people talk about ideal client. I've seen other people teach the concept of ideal client and helping their clients find their ideal clients, particularly coaches and so on. A couple of things that don't get mentioned very often, or if they do, I don't hear them. One is your ideal clients, and this is worth writing down, and you're going to go, duh. Your ideal clients are not happy with their results. And that's the first thing to recognize. Like, if you want to talk about the concept of low-hanging fruit, which I'm not a fan of the words, but I get the concept. They are people who are not happy with their results. And again, that's relative. So you could have, let's take the coaching market. Most coaches make very little money. Most of them are broke. And they're broke because they don't understand this. But if you take someone who's broke, they've got a real pain of they're not happy with their results. They're not happy with the number of clients they get. They're not happy with the fees they charge. They're not happy with the money they're making. They're not happy with the impact they're not making. They're not happy with any of that. And that's your starting point. Eugene Schwartz in his book, Breakthrough Advertising, fantastic book. Grab it, read it, digest it, read it 60 million times. It's fantastic. But he talks about levels of awareness. And within that sort of levels of awareness, there are people who are completely unaware. And what that means is they're unaware of you. They're unaware that you have a solution to a problem they have. They're also unaware they even have a problem. So they're not the people you start with because they're not going around feeling unhappy about their results because they don't think they've got a problem. So they're not even looking for anything. So they're the last group of people you're going to reach, and you're only going to reach them once you've really nailed all the other groups, because then you'll have the budget to actually reach them, stir up enough pain, and get them to actually pay any attention. So, but then if you go to people that are what's called solution aware, then someone who's solution aware means they're aware of you, they're aware of their problem, and they're aware that you actually have a solution to their problem. So really at that point, they're just waiting for a good deal. They want to buy, and they want to buy from you. They're just waiting for a good deal if they haven't already bought. If you go back a step, then you get to this place where people are problem aware, and people who are problem aware and they're outcome aware. So what I mean by that is they know what they want to achieve. Like they might not have nailed it in terms of absolute clarity of the goal, but they know what they want to achieve. Like they know they want more clients, for example. So those people are solution aware. They know they haven't got enough clients, so they know they have a problem. Those are the people you go after first. So they are not happy with the results they're getting. That is always the starting point. And I've made this mistake in the past where I'm thinking I'm going after everybody and I'm trying to, and this is where I overthink. I'd read Eugene Schwartz's book. It's like, this is fantastic. How do I get to the people that aren't even aware they've got a problem? Because if I can get them, they're a much bigger group, obviously, because think of it like a bullseye. Right in the center are the people that know they've got a problem and they're actively looking for a solution. Then you got the people outside of that who don't know they've got a problem, even though they do, but they're not aware of it. So they're not looking for a solution. And I've done very well with those people in the past, in the sense of making them aware they've got a problem. And because I'm the person that's made them aware, who do they look to for a solution? Me. So I've done very well there. But they're not the people you start with. You start with the people right in the center who are very aware they've got a problem and they're actively looking for a solution. Now, the challenge you have there is that's where most of your competition is as well. So it's a smaller pool of people, although it's still, and in absolute terms, it needs to be a big enough pool of people to support your business and pretty much everybody else's. But if you're in the coaching world, personal development, marketing, sales, health and fitness, yoga retreats, any of those kind of things, the niche is so big, it will support millions of us. So be aware. That's your first thought. Write that down. The people you are actively wanting to reach are not happy with their results. They know they have a problem. They want a solution. That's your first starting point. Now, what you want to do is differentiate yourself from everybody else. And you do this by developing your branding. So your branding is about recognizing who you want to be in the marketplace. Like, how do you want to be known in the marketplace? So if you look at it in terms of, I mentioned before that personality marketing tends to be the easiest type of marketing there is and very powerful because it's human to human. But within that, give some thought to how you want to be known. And so how you want to be known is like, what do you want to be known for? How do you want people to think about you? So, for example, I want people, and I've spent some time this week really digging into this and trying to articulate it in a more powerful way than I've done before. And my override, and also it's like, what's your mission? These things tie together, certainly in my head. And so maybe in a future live, I'll dig out and put together like a little exercise or a series of questions to help you really clarify this. But I wanted you to be aware of it first. I've really been digging into, I want to help people turn their potential into profit. So, lots of people have gone, like coaches, for example, have spent a lot of time developing their skills as a coach. People who are in health and fitness have spent a lot of time and money investing in developing their ability to understand fitness, understand anatomy, understand how to put together an exercise program, a diet program, all these kind of things. What they're lacking is the ability to turn that potential into profit by getting the clients that they want. So you want to kind of understand what's your mission, and then how do you want to be known? And then within that, what's your kind of superpower? So problem solving, strategy, that's all my superpower. Selling one to many is very definitely my superpower. So it's like, how do I then leverage all of that into a brand? So the way you do that is, in simple terms, is you help people by basically helping them. You demonstrate you can help people by basically helping them. Now, that's not my unique phrase. I want to give credit. That's Frank Kern's whole business. His whole philosophy on business has been demonstrate you can help people by actually helping people in advance. Jay Abraham talks about the same thing in much more, I don't know what the word would be, but more like he'll talk about the strategy of preeminence. So I don't know how you describe that. It's like, that preeminence is one of those big words. It's much more of a flowery word. I'm sure there's a word for using big words. Does that make sense? But he calls it the strategy of preeminence. So he talks about it in those terms because that's how he is. He's very eloquent. He's very, erudite in terms of language. I think that's the word. But whereas Frank's kind of simplified it and said, well, look, just demonstrate you can help people by helping them in advance. Now, there's a couple of things to this. The whole point of helping people in advance is that you are moving them closer to you to buying. It's not just let me put out free content. Let me kind of give all my stuff away. It's not really that. It's more about how do you put that across in a way that builds trust, builds rapport, builds fans. So it's being able to help the people you want to help. And the way we do that, of course, is you map the gap. Where are people now? Where do they want to get to? What are the key steps? So first of all, you've got to start there. You've got to map the gap for your clients, for your prospects, so that you understand where they are, where they're coming from, the challenges they're facing, why they're unhappy with the results they're getting, why they're frustrated, why they're annoyed. You got to understand all of that. And that's where the research part comes in. And then you're looking at it in terms of where do they want to get to? They want to get to a place where they've got, more clients, more freedom, more income, more time off, those kind of things. And then it's like, okay, so what's your approach to that? What's the stepping stones to it? If you're in the fitness world or the yoga world or the mindfulness world, then you might be looking at it in terms of, okay, my clients are, for example, I remember a friend of mine who does yoga, and I had a chat with her and said, so your clients really are highly stressed CEOs? And she was like, God, yes, because that's who she worked with. And it's like, right, so let's understand their gap. They're in a position where they're working very long hours. They are paid extremely well. But of course, with those kind of bonuses and salary comes the pressure of you've got to deliver results. To deliver results, you need to be at your best. You can't be at your best if you're stressed out all the time. You can't be at your best if you're out of shape because your body's not functioning properly. Like there's a real correlation between someone being in shape physically and somebody's mental health being very strong. And actually, I heard this morning, some research I read, the hippocampus in the brain, if someone's out of shape, that shrinks and it has a tremendous impact on their mental stability and their mental health. Someone who's in great shape, the hippocampus is bigger, it's stronger. So therefore, you as an individual are more mentally resilient. So all that ties in. The science supports the fact that you want to be in shape. So if you're in that position, you're going, okay, like my friend, highly stressed, very highly paid, under a lot of pressure CEOs, who want to be able to think better, operate better, deliver the results they're paid to do, and maintain their health and obviously potentially extend their life, so to do it in a way where they're more comfortable and so on. So I helped to map that out. It's like, okay, this is what you're mapping out. And it's like, right, how do you help these people in advance? What can you do? So the primary way is you want to share stories which allow people to connect with you, to bond with you. But within the story, you can start sharing insights, which immediately give them aha moments. And that's the key, give people aha moments. And then within the aha moments, you're also wanting to plant the seeds of where you want them to go next. So ultimately, a very crude way, I guess, off the top of my head would be, like I've mentioned already, I've been working with somebody and they were in a position where they just wanted instant results. And it's like, no, let's just run some ads straight to cold traffic and get them on my webinar. And it's like, we can do that. And I'm telling you now, that's not going to be the most effective way to do it, but let's do it anyway, because I knew that pain's a great motivator. So if we do this and you don't get the results you want, then it's like, okay, well, maybe I should be a bit more patient. Maybe I should listen. Now, what have I just done with that story, though? And I wasn't deliberate, but as I was telling it, a couple of things come out of it. One, you go, oh, he works with other people and he helps them do this sort of stuff. So immediately I'm seeding something. I'm seeding a service, a product. I'm seeding something in that way. So you're suddenly aware that I've got a solution to a problem you might be facing. But that wasn't my primary focus of the story, but that's what you want to be doing with your stories. You want to be telling stories that people can relate to, that people can relate to and empathize with and go, oh, I have a similar problem. I have a similar challenge. I feel the same way. And then as you share the insight, it's like, oh, so I've got to learn to be more patient. I've actually got to take a step back, not try and rush at it like a bull in a china shop. And actually, what he's basically saying is, I don't have a traffic problem. I have a strategy problem. I have an impatience problem. And he's actually got a solution. Oh, I wonder how I get hold of his solution. I wonder if he'd take me on as a client. So all those sort of things might start percolating, not in everybody that hears it, obviously, but certainly in some of the people hearing it. And you haven't actually said buy anything. But this is preframing. And preframing is the most powerful tool in the influence box because it's everything you do before you ask for the money. So stories are your primary focus. So I don't want to spend too much longer because I haven't got much longer for today, but I'm going to continue this. If you've got comments and questions and you're watching this in the replay, put them down below because I'm going to answer all those questions in the next live. And I'm actually going to spend a bit more time. Now that I've started thinking this through with your help, I'm actually going to spend a bit more time putting together some structure to this. So the next time we talk, I'm going to give you a more in-depth understanding of how to leverage this into a strategy that you can actually use, no matter what niche you're in. It doesn't matter what niche you're in because human psychology doesn't change. Human nature doesn't change. Somebody rang me yesterday that I haven't spoken to for a while. He's had some challenges, relationship challenges, and all sorts of things going on. So he'd been very sort of miserable and in a bit of a dark place, but he was coming out of it and he just wanted to have a quick chat. And he was asking for sort of some resources, things that I would look at that would be of help to him. And I mentioned stoicism. He's heard me mention it before. He brought it up, and I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he then was telling the story about Michael Landon, the Little House on the Prairie actor who died quite early in his life of cancer, and who had made the comment about, somebody should tell you when you're born that you're going to die, because then you'd live your life more fully. And I was saying, yeah, but that's nothing new. The Stoics had this idea of memento mori, so they knew from birth you're going to die. And that you could die at any time. And certainly, the Stoics lived through, Marcus Aurelius spent most of his adult life at war. So he understood that people could die at any time. So this memento mori was this idea of you can die at any time, live your life fully. So these concepts, these ideas, the human psychology, human nature hasn't changed in thousands of years, and it ain't changing anytime soon. So stories are how we shared ideas. Before we had written word, we had stories. Our brains have evolved for stories. So it's using the different types of stories to develop your brand in the marketplace. So the material you put out is very powerful. So I'll finish with this for now. We want to then turn that into a consistent strategy. So there's a guy I want to give a shout out to, Kurt Marley. I think that's how I pronounce his surname. And Kurt has something called the belt method. So he's a Facebook media buyer, advertiser, and very good at it, very successful, runs an agency, runs an education aspect to his business. So he has products around the belt method. And when I first heard him talk about the belt method, I didn't get it. And what I mean by that is I heard it and I was like, okay, so top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Yeah, that's nothing new. That was my thought. Like, there's nothing, I don't get it. What's so different about this? And I'd listened to the presentation a couple of times and I was like, okay, maybe he's got a couple of little extra little nuances. But I don't get it. I didn't get it at all. It didn't seem different to what I already knew. It was like, well, you're not doing anything I don't already do and that I don't already recommend, so I don't get it. But then I listened to him again this week in a different interview where he's being interviewed by another media buyer. So because it was another media buyer, she was able to ask more detailed questions around some of the aspects of it. And it clicked. I really got what he was going on about and how it is different. And it is taking the kind of idea of tofu, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and really leveraging the algorithm within Facebook to put the best of all of these things together. So I'll touch on that a little bit. Obviously, I don't want to share too much in the sense of it's Kurt Marley's material. I don't want to share his material, but I will share my insights and my experiences of it. Because again, the top of the funnel is where everything which happens before you ask. Like I'm saying to, the person I'm helping at the moment, I'm saying, look, we want to be running video specifically. We want to be recording videos which are helping people, which are defining your mission, because your mission is what will polarize your audience. So if I tell people I want to help more people translate their potential into actual profit so they can have a successful business, have more freedom, help more people, have a bigger impact, feel they're making a difference. And I want the kind of people who are ready to learn the skills that are necessary and do the work. Then I'm sharing my mission. And I'm also trying to highlight the kind of people I want to reach. And the people that resonate with that and resonate with me will be like, I want to know more from this guy. So if we put out those kind of videos where we're consistently reinforcing the mission, reinforcing the identity of the person. So in my case, reinforcing my identity of how I want to be known, like translating potential into profit. That's how I want to be known. Selling one to many. That's what I want to be known for. So if I continue to reinforce this and give away great value at the top of the funnel, never selling anything, and just using stories as one of the most powerful tools of influence, and using the stories to connect, to build more fans, then what we can do within a platform like Facebook or a platform like YouTube is all the people that engage with the video, we can collect them together. So Facebook won't tell us their names and addresses, but it will collect them all together into an audience for us. So that anyone who's watched it, then we can start saying middle of the funnel, by the way, blah, 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 here's some more value, and I'm going to go deeper in a web class. So we can open loops at that point, because you've already established people who are starting to become fans. You deepen that bond with them, so they believe even more that you can help them and that you're one of the good guys. And then, of course, then you start saying, by the way, I've got a web class and I'm going to be going deeper on this particular topic. And then they'll register for it. And what that will do overall is, one, it allows us to do a lot more in this area of everything which happens before you're asked, because we spend so much time on the top of the funnel. And then at the middle of the funnel is where we start saying, let me add more value. Let's go deeper. And what's great about the middle of the funnel as well is you can test different ways of promoting what you're offering. In other words, if you've got a coaching program, like I'm going to be coming out with a coaching program in the next month or so, where I'm going to be taking people through this whole process. I'm going to be guiding by the hand. So it's going to be more high end. It's going to be a small select group of people, but I'm going to be taking by the hand and digging into this. And let's say I help them put together their coaching program and say, okay, this is how you're going to package it. But then in terms of promoting it out the gate, I don't know which is going to be the best angle. And not only do I not know which is going to be the best angle, different angles will work better for different people within that niche. So we can create at the middle of the funnel, we could have 5 different angles, all leading to the same web class. And different people will resonate. So people who've gone through the top of the funnel are now in the middle of the funnel. And I say, here's angle 1. And they go, that doesn't really work. Doesn't really grab my attention. But then they're scrolling again on Facebook and they see angle 2 and they go, oh, I like that. And they click for the webinar on the same date, the same time. It's the same thing. And then I could have 5 different angles, and I'll allow Facebook to show those different angles to all those different people in the middle of my funnel. And hopefully that way, it's a bit like Perry Marshall used to talk about leaves on a tree. This is years ago. He used to talk about, the one thing we've got a real advantage with the internet is it's not split testing and saying which is the best headline. This headline got 90%. This headline only got 10%. It's not saying that at all. Because really, if that 10% is still profitable, do you not want to still run it? Of course you do. It's understanding that different people respond to different things. Like, for example, in NLP terms, people can tend to be more visual in terms of how they think, more auditory in terms of how they think, or more kinesthetic. They're more into their feelings. So I could take a headline and I could rewrite it in visual language, auditory language, and kinesthetic feeling language. Same headline for the same product, for the same web class, for the exact same thing. And I could then put it out in the middle of my funnel and have 3 different angles based on 3 different modes of how people like to take on information. And so you come along and you see the first one. Let's say you're a kinesthetic person and you're on Facebook and you're scrolling through and you see my ad in your newsfeed for my web class. You've already done my top of the funnel, so you know who I am. You've already got some level of trust. You see it and it's all visual language. So it doesn't trigger you. It doesn't resonate with you. You don't get it. You don't feel it. So you just ignore it. But then a day later, you see my kinesthetic ad for the exact same webinar, and you are kinesthetic and you read it and go, oh, I love that. I'm registering for that right now. I want to know more. Does that make sense? So all 3 of those angles can all be profitable. That's the point. So it's not split testing, because that's now not as important. That doesn't mean we're not trying to improve things. Of course we are. But understand, it's leaves on a tree. A tree doesn't have one leaf. A tree doesn't go, oh, is this leaf better at collecting light to turn into oxygen or to turn into carbon dioxide than this leaf? Well, this leaf's better, so get rid of that leaf. It doesn't do that. He goes, no, you're both doing the job. I just want more leaves. Does that make sense? So we want more angles, and we allow Facebook to do the hard work, the hard lifting of showing those angles to all the relevant people until the algorithm understands, actually, this angle works best with these people. This angle works best with these people. It's all profitable. It all allows you to reach and impact more people. That's where I've got to with the strategy. And that's what's exciting. So I'll wrap this up. I did intend to be a little bit more commercial on this live. This is for me, so this is getting me into a good habit. Where am I? So I am going to be running my Entrepreneur Switch class next Thursday. So this is where, like, as I said, I'm an overthinker. So the thing, because I'm an overthinker, I had to, if you like, put in place things that allow me to be an overthinker but still be successful. So I have habits, and so I'm going to be talking more about that. I call it the Entrepreneur Switch. It's all the habits that I follow, that I've used, that I've implemented, that I model from very successful people and then put in place for me. I'll be talking about those more on the Entrepreneur Switch, so that you can kind of go from whatever kind of mindset you've got into an entrepreneur mindset, so you embody the habits of a 6-figure per month entrepreneur, and therefore obviously start moving towards those kind of results. Disclaimer, of course, my results are not typical, but this is free. So if you go to journal.strategicrebel.com/habits, you'll see the page, register for the page, and you can register for the webinar next Thursday morning. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up for now. That's about 45 minutes. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any comments, by all means, leave them below. Got any questions, leave them below. Anything you want to ask me, by all means, ask. That would make it, I would love for this to be more of a interactive conversation. And that will obviously start to grow as I start to put more attention into this particular strategy with a view to growing my followers, because that's really what's come out of this week for me, is being more strategic about that. So see you hopefully on the web class next Thursday. See you on the live next Friday. I'll put together more detail on this, but understand that your ability to sell one-to-many is how you translate your potential into profit, because it allows you to reach more clients. And the key to it is not, can I use more sales tactics to close more people, to pressure them? That's not the key. The key is everything you do before you ask for the money. So we're going to talk much more about that, talk much more about how you brand yourself, much more about understanding your ideal clients. But the big key I want you to take away from today is your ideal clients are not happy with their current results. That's the big thing. And we often forget that. We try and go after everybody, and it's like, no. The people that know they're unhappy, they're the ones you want right now. All right, hope you enjoyed it. I will see you again next Friday. And as I said, if you've got any comments, please leave them below. If you're watching this on the replay, leave any questions below, and we will I'll put them all together and I'll answer them all in the next live. All right, see you then. Take it easy.